Welcome back to another discussion. So the first question we're going to go over is what are the three defining characteristics typical of learners with ASD, and what impact might each of these characteristics have on achieving inclusion for these students? So the three defining characteristics for learners with ASD include impaired social interaction, impaired communication skills, and repetitive and restricted behaviors. And you can see this in our textbook on page 128. So first off, social interaction is important in today's classrooms. It really is a huge part. For example, if you look at some of our college classrooms, some of the high school classrooms, there are a lot of discussions going on, a lot of group projects, a lot of class projects, discussions, that kind of stuff. And those with ASD may struggle to communicate, work, or play with others when being involved in these things, which makes it very difficult for them to kind of get the full impact of their learning. Those who struggle with ASD are often thought of as shy initially, so they tend to not really communicate as well. They don't really relate ideas very well. They don't like to socialize, which I kind of get. And I kind of figure a good way to help students with ASD when it comes to inclusion in the classroom would be to maybe give them the option of whether they'd like to work alone or work with others, and then give them the option on what kind of project they want to do, how they want to execute it, what kind of topics they want to go over, and so on. Now, this right here kind of goes with the impaired communication skills, so I'm not really going to go over that too much because it's pretty much the same concept where their social interaction and their communication skills kind of lack and work hand in hand to make it a little bit harder for them to learn. I will go over repetitive and restricted behaviors, which are often a characteristic of students with ASD. This could include like flapping their hands repeatedly, jumping, walking on their toes, and so on. So students with ASD, they may find it difficult to like sit down for the entire day, like sitting down in class, not moving, not speaking, that kind of stuff. It just kind of gets them to where they feel like they need to move and they need to do something. Those with this kind of disorder, they may have intense and prolonged emotional reactions too. So they may get upset when they're asked to make a shift in their day. And this can include shifting from like playing to eating lunch. Their emotions often don't match the situations that they find themselves to be in, and more often than not, their emotional shifts will result from changing their routine. So in order for a teacher to make their class more inclusive, as far as this goes, what they can do is they can allow small breaks for their students where everyone gets a chance to kind of move around, jump around, walk, talk, do what they need to do. And then teachers can also allow movement during class, something to keep the students busy to where they have that opportunity to be able to learn and to be able to do things like move their fingers, clap their hands, whatever they need to do. So some assignments that could kind of help with this would involve movement would be like improv plays, acting things out, getting to jump around, that kind of stuff. So the next question. Learners with ASD may also exhibit self-mutilating behaviors like banging their heads or chewing on their fingers. How can you calm this learner? So self-injury behaviors that can take place in ASD learners take place for a variety of reasons. There really is no set reason. These behaviors can include slapping, headbanging, scratching, hitting, biting, kicking, all sorts of things. Since there is really no definite reason as to why ASD learners commit to this kind of behavior, educators kind of need to learn and understand the underlying issues that are causing them. So in most cases, students hurt themselves as a means of communication. Whenever they're anxious, upset, when they're happy, they tend to like bang their heads, or they'll scratch or pick at their fingers and that kind of stuff. And that kind of helps them cope with their emotions pretty much. It helps them cope with what's going on. Or it helps them kind of communicate to other people by saying, I want someone to play with me, or I want someone to look at me. Another reason why these students may be harming themselves is because they enjoy sensory stimulation. So by hitting their heads, they like that sensory stimulation that's going on up here, or whenever they go to scratch their arms, they like that feeling. Um, and in other words, they may hurt themselves to increase or decrease their level of arousal in the classroom. So more often than not, self-injury is an unintentionally learned behavior, which means that they could have seen a mother or a father doing it, and they could have taken it one way or another and decided that they want to use it for something else. So let's say if a child were to engage in self-injury and a parent or teacher hands them a preferred toy as a response or a preferred snack, the child's going to learn that every time they hurt themselves, they get something good. The same can be said about uncomfortable environments like school. If a child feels uncomfortable, they'll start doing these behaviors and it'll get the parent to pull them away from that situation. So, as a teacher, I feel like I would need to get to the bottom of my student as to, or to the bottom of as to why my student is hurting themselves first before I actually took any action. It's always good to know the source of the problem. So like if the child likes the feeling of it, you can give them a pillow or some kind of toy that they could commit the act on, like they could scratch at a toy or pick at it, or if you have a pillow, they could bang their head into the pillow. They wouldn't be hurting themselves. If a child's doing it for attention, you can show them how to use their words more without actually having to hurt themselves. And then if a child's hurting themselves because they want something like a new toy, this one had me a little, I wasn't sure what to do. Um, in my honest opinion, I would give them some kind of substitute that they could play with in the classroom. And then if they were being disruptive in the class, take it away. Kind of. That's my way of thinking about it, because then you can give them the idea that, hey, if you don't hurt yourself and you're not being disruptive, you can have the toy back.